Welcome to the Car Club. Roll up. Let's take a rip. Let me tell you the world is yours. Yeah, bish. Hello and welcome back. This will be MMA podcast number 21. I'll be talking about the UFC 238 fights that happened this past weekend. It'll be a recap episode of the full fight card. I was in these fights. I was not in these fights. I was at these fights live at the United Center where the Bulls and Blackhawks play. It was very exciting. Had very good seats. It was a good time from the opening fight to the end, to the main event. I had some, I guess not personal issue, but just I got to my fucking bank account, fucking Wells Fargo. They thought somebody had stolen my card, so they, because I went down to Chicago for a week and was spinning stacks, and so they thought someone had stolen my shit. So they restricted my card. They shut it down while I was at the arena as I was trying to purchase my first fucking beer and a water. I was so fucking thirsty. But it was rejected. Had to go through that embarrassment of, them trying my card 2 to 3 times and then a whole line behind me and being like, well, I guess I'm fucked. I didn't have cash on me. Wasn't planning on that. Had money in the bank. Literally got paid the day before. But Wells Fargo wanted to be a bunch of cunts. And I didn't even figure that out till that night. After the fights, I didn't even think of, my card being restricted because I'm like, well, it's my fucking money. I should be able to access it whenever I want. I hadn't even made that big of purchases, so I don't know why'd they do that. I don't know. It was very, very annoying to deal with in the moment. I couldn't have any beer while watching the fights. Couldn't even get a fucking glass of water, and I was hungry as well. So that sucked, but the fights themselves were really fun. It was an enjoyable time, and essentially just fasted from 5 until the next morning. So it is what it is. It kind of sucked. And also on the way back from Chicago, my car broke down about 30 minutes outside of Chicago. So I had an hour and a half of my trip. So I ended up having to tow my car the rest of the way back and driving in a tow truck with the tow truck driver for about 2 hours. So that wasn't my ideal Sunday either, but it is what it is. As I said, that's just life. You're going to get hit with some punches. It's about, how you react. Do you counterpunch? Do you just let them punch you in the face and, whittle, and not get back up? Or do you keep on chucking and keep on moving forward? And really the only thing you can do in this life is keep on moving forward, no matter how bad things get. And yes, really bad things can happen, but all you can do is take it 1 second at a time, 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week at a time. And I don't even like to look past a week, but it's even though it was frustrating, it was nice to know, after I've been working a job for about 1.5 years, I had some money saved up, so although it wasn't ideal and I had to wait around, half an hour, in the hot. I mean, it wasn't even sunny outside, so it wasn't even that hot. So I wasn't even sweating. But some nice people helped me push my car to the side of the road, tow it to the side. So that was cool. And then, just had to pay a couple $100 I wasn't expecting to. And if that's the worst that's going to happen to me, then I have a pretty good life. So I'm very grateful. I'm still here, still alive. It could be a lot worse. My car could have it was smoking up and overheated. So, it could have possibly caught on fire and I could have died and exploded. Would have made for a cool story, but didn't happen. So here we are. And exciting weekend, and although finances and other transportation and things kind of were some speed bumps in the way, it was all in all, it was fun. Before the event itself, the UFC has these little quote-unquote fan experience things that are open to the public, so you don't even have to have tickets. You could just, be at that event, or the event could be in your city. You can go there to the event. You won't get the email, you won't get notified this is happening, but I'm sure you can probably Google it. If there's an event in your hometown, you can probably just Google UFC fan experience and then the name of the city and state, and I'm sure you'll be able to find some information. If not, then just show up and you'll find it. It wasn't hard to miss. They had this cool setup. They had like one of those striking challenge things where you hit it as hard as you can, it registers your punch or whatever. I didn't do that. The line was too long, and also I didn't want to do that in front of a bunch of people and potentially embarrass myself. Although I am confident in my my punching ability. Considering most of the people I saw that were going up there didn't look like they could punch. Or, they could punch. That seems powerful, but... And I'm not a technician myself, but I've at least just hit a bag every now and then because I have one in my house. But it's evident that they have not done the same. But they were still putting up pretty good numbers. As far as the other stuff, there's UFC store there. You could buy apparel, shirts, shorts, posters. I was going to buy a poster, but again, my card fucked up, and I kind of forgot anyways, because I was just trying to get beer. I totally forgot about the poster. But then they had like meet and greet centers set up for different fighters and different things. The first section I got there was Clay Guida, Macy Barber. No, it was Corey Anderson and Macy Barber, and then Cynthia Cavillo. I didn't get to meet Cynthia Cavillo. I didn't go in the line for Macy Barber because honestly I got intimidated. Like, she's really cute, and I know she's a fucking badass fighter, and I was like, my heart was a little flustered, and I'm like, I'm too nervous to even look into her eyes or say hi or shake her hand. So I didn't do it. But I did. I went in the line for Corey Anderson. Got to meet him right before he exited. Got a cool picture with him up on Instagram. Got a bunch of pictures. They took like 50 pictures. I just need one. I'm no IG model. I don't need 50 iterations of the same photo. I just need that one photo to remember, trigger my mind 50 years from now. Remember, oh yeah, I just shook Corey Anderson's hand. And shit, I'm the same height as him. He's fucking jacked. He's definitely got, 30 to 50 pounds of muscle on me. But it was pretty cool. And then the second session, I got to meet Clay Guida. And I'm fucking way taller than him. But he's still, jacked, more physically fit in shape. And he'd obviously fuck me up if it were a fight or anything like that. It was just interesting seeing it, like, literally towering over the veteran Clay Guida, knowing he could kick my ass. It was cool shaking his hand. Then they also had... Who else did they have there? I know they had Wonderboy, Steven Wonderboy Thompson, and Chris Weidman. But those lines were super long. They got long before they even got there, so I didn't even step in that line. It was not that it was a waste of my time, but my time was better spent. Especially, my card actually failed at the fan experience thing. I bought one beer for $10.50, and once I go back try to buy a second beer, decline, and my shit didn't work after that. I tried to go to ATM that was in the arena, didn't work. Again, if I realized at that point, Wells Fargo blocked my shit, and I called them, shit would have been fixed. But is what it is. The guys at the beer stand were really cool. My card failed a bunch of times, even though they remembered seeing my face and remember it working before. They said they were having problems with visas overall, so that's what I thought was the problem, that the area around me just wasn't accepting visas, because United Center, I guess they're sponsored by MasterCard, all their ATMs and stuff were kind of MasterCard serviced, not Visa, but Visa should still work, so that didn't make sense to me, but I just went with what they said. And so when I tried to get my second beer, my shit failed, but they already opened it, and I'm like, well, what do you guys, you guys gonna throw this away? And like, you can have it. You owe us $10. I trust you. Asked him where the ATM was. Went there. My plan was to pull out a shit ton of cash so I could keep drinking beers, be at that fan experience, and possibly meet some of the other fighters. Got the ATM. It failed, and so I was like, well, what the fuck? Something's fucked up. I didn't think of what it was, but so I just went back to the hotel room, got high, and then went back to the United Center and sat through these fights without water, beer, or food for like 7 hours. All in all, and now that I need expenses, I need money to pay. I don't need money to pay for my car, but I need to be more frugal. So I guess it was the universe was kind of looking out for me in that way. I guess if that's how you want to spin the tale. But as far as the fights go, let's start talking about those. Enough about me. That's not why I'm here. That's not why you're here. I'm here to talk about these fights, and these fights are good and start off good. Early prelims start off between Caitlin Chukagian and Joanne Jojo Calderwood. This was a good opening fight. These ladies are ranked number 2 and 4 in the flyweight division, so this is essentially a contender, title shot contender eliminator, for that number 1 contender spot. After Valentina and Jessica I fought in the same night. As far as the fight itself, it was a good technical striking performance by both ladies. A lot of back and forth. Joanne was, I thought, really, they were more of kind of touching leg kicks, but she definitely, I thought she was outpointing Caitlin, just from her leg kicks alone and damages alone. I didn't think Caitlin had too many big power shots or damaging strikes. I did watch the first couple rounds of this fight again later on ESPN Plus. I could see that Chukagian's actually footwork and how she was just barely slipping out of strikes was very impressive. Her striking defense was very good. But come the judge's decision, this did go all 3 rounds. It did end up being a unanimous decision in Chukagian's favor. I was upset at the time. I thought Joanne won. I had it 29-28. I had the first and third rounds for her, if I remember correctly. And I had money on JoJo, though, so I was most likely biased in my mind, and that's how I'm going to have to go with it since it was a unanimous decision. I kind of disagreed with it, but it is what it is. And this is really the only fight that I was questionable about as far as when it went to the judges' scorecard or referee stoppages or anything like that. The next fight of the night was a very good performance by Eddie Wineland versus Gregory Popov, who was making his UFC debut. And while Popov definitely connected a couple times on Wineland, he had some damaging strikes. Wineland's pressure and just overall experience and just being, flat out better than Popov and, being very composed in there. It was an exciting finish. He came out, kind of pieced him up in the first round. Definitely won that first round, although Popov got off a little bit. But you could start to see him, the damage start to take a toll a little bit. And come that second round, Wineland started right where he left off in round 1 and got out there and got the finish towards the end of that second round. And put away Popov with punches. And it was a very good performance. First finish of the night, first knockout of the night, or TKO of the night. And, there was a decent amount of decisions, but there was also some very exciting stoppages filtered throughout the card, and especially later in the card, that kind of made up for all the decisions early on. But this one did not. Wineland looked very impressive, and if it had been for those 2 main event, the main event and co-main event fights, he probably would have received a bonus. But it is what it is. He did not, because of the main event and co-main delivered. So again, it is what it is. This next fight was between Bevon Lewis and Darren Stewart. A lot of people are high on Lewis not just because he trains with John Jones, but I think he was overhyped because he trains with John Jones. And he does have the figure of John Jones. He's very long and lanky. I think he was like 6 foot or 6'2" at 185, which is pretty tall especially compared to Darren Stewart, who I think, if I remember correctly, was 5'10". But Darren Stewart's been a little more, both guys are kind of young in their professional MMA career. Stewart, this was his 14th pro fight. This is only Lewis's 8th. So still relatively young, but Stewart had been there a few more times in the octagon. Lewis is only his second fight in the UFC after his debut versus Uriah Hall and losing in an exciting fashion, or devastating fashion, I guess. It's not very exciting if you lose, so I guess it was devastating for him. This basically went the way I thought it would go. I thought Stewart, although he would have a reach disadvantage, I thought he'd get inside and just outfight him. Not technically or anything like that. He would just be the more scrappier and just better fighter, and stronger guy. And he got the unanimous decision, 29-28 in 2 judges' scorecards and 30-27 on 1. And I had some money on Stewart there. Bet it right before the card because I realized, this is the only fight I didn't bet on. And I did bet on Weiland that last fight right beforehand. He was a heavy favorite though, so I didn't get out too much. Stewart, however, on the other hand, was an underdog, so that was a good bet. And I made some poor bets throughout this card. Not poor bets. It's just fighters impressed me, and the decision just didn't go. It didn't go the way I thought it would, or was hoping it would, or the way I thought my money was going, or whatever. So that betting went on Darren Stewart I think he was plus 140 when I bet it. Was huge as far as my net positive/negative. I think I ended up being negative $3 at the end of the night, which is retarded, considering I almost had $200 altogether on all these fights. I usually don't bet too much, about 5 or 10 each card, for each fight of each card, and then eventually it will grow over time. But because I was at these fights, I wanted to see if I could bet on all of them and see how I could do. So it was about 50%. I'd say probably 49%. I guess not. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Let's talk about the fights, motherfucker. The last fight on the early prelims between Yan Chionan and Angela Overkill Hill. And this fight went pretty much how I thought as well. I had money on Yan. And Angela Hill actually has been impressing me lately. Beginning of her career, she was very athletic, very just pretty much athletic and long and just explosive, and she kind of used that when she got in trouble or when she was feeling the pressure. She would bust out one of her athletic, like spinning head kicks or something like that to try to finish a fight. But now she's being more composed and more technical. Just Jan, I think, is just on a different level, and I think she is a legit contender, or soon-to-be contender in the strawweight division there at 115 on the women's side of things. So she ended up getting the unanimous decision, 29-28 on all 3 judges' scorecard, and winning me a couple doll hairs as well. The first prelim fight of the night, I actually did not bet on this fight because I wasn't sure. I know Calvin Kattar is a fucking up-and-coming stud, but he's also fighting a fucking veteran savage, Ricardo Lamas, who's fought anybody and everybody, not only at featherweight, but at weights above and weights below. Maybe not below. So I wasn't really sure. I thought this is a real test for Calvin Kattar to see if he's really ready to make a run at the top there. And I think he proved to everybody that he is. He proved to me for sure. And he proved to me that I should have bet some money on him. Because he came out strong in that first round and got the finish and knocked out Lamas. And I got an update today saying that Ricardo Lamas broke his jaw from the punch that Qatar knocked him out with. Or Cater. It's Kelvin Cater, not Qatar. I keep saying Qatar. It's Cater. So now Cater is 20-3. And I believe he was ranked, he was ranked 15th. So, I mean, and Lamas was 10, I believe. So, although I don't think he's in next or even next in line for the 145-pound belt, Max Holloway's pretty much beat everybody else in that division. So, Cater could definitely get a title shot here soon if he wins another fight or two in very devastating fashion versus top-ranked guys. I could see that happening, fairly soon, kind of like what they've done with Anthony Smith, Thiago Santos, and I guess even Johnny Walker at light heavyweight. Although Walker got hurt, but if Walker wins another fight or two, you could have him fight Jones here pretty soon. I don't think any of these guys are ready to face the contender or the champion as far as John Jones at that division, but Cater, I don't know if Cater's ready to face Holloway. I'd say no, but definitely has potential. He has championship potential and at least top 5 potential. As far as this fight really was devastating for me. It wasn't devastating. It just made me realize, I went the other way with my money. It was between Karolina Kowalkiewicz and Alexa Grasso. Alexa Grasso fucking reminded me how good she was and how much I was impressed with her performance last time out. And I was beating myself up. But, Karolina is legit. She's fought for the belt versus Joanna. She's fought the best of the best. But she did get devastatingly knocked out in her last performance versus Jessica Andrade. But I thought, she bounced back, especially having her loss before that versus Joanna, I believe, for the belt. But Grasso showed that she's coming and she might deserve next title shot. No, she doesn't deserve next title shot. I don't know, man. Suarez might. But if Grasso doesn't deserve next title, probably not next, but she'd be a very top. She outclassed Karolina in striking, which is Carolina's strong suit. And Alexa Grasso, man, her fucking hands are so fast. I remember that in her last fight that I watched. Who'd she fight her last fight again? Because as soon as she stepped out there and threw punches, I'm like, oh yeah. Oh, she lost versus Tatiana Suarez. So maybe it wasn't her last fight. But the fight before that, she fought Randa Marcos. I don't know. But, man, she had super fast hands, very good technical boxing. She looked very solid. Outpointed, outstruck, outdamaged Karolina in every facet. And got the unanimous decision on all 3 judges' scorecard, 30-27. So I was very impressed by her performance. If I was a boss of things, she'd get a performance bonus. You get a 10 G's performance bonus. Fuck these, you only give out 3 bonuses. You have fucking 13 fights, man. These people are laying it on their line. Some of them are going to get damaged, have long-term damage from these fights. And it might not be right away, it might be evident like a month later, but it's going to take off at least a month of their life at the end of things, on the entail of things. So I think these guys need to be paid more, guys and gals. It's crazy. And I've said this before, I think they need to create a fucking fighters union, but it's tough because every fighter's an individual and they have their own family, their own camps, their own training partners, blah, 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 coaches, etc., managers, agents that need to be paid for and need to, if they do a union, you say, oh, I'm I'm not signing up to fight. A group of fighters come together, say we're not fighting or accepting or signing deals until you meet, our requirements. Well, guys that, the guys that aren't in that league will be like, well, shit, pay me what you're paying them, and I'll fight. You can pay me less. I don't care. There's always going to be that next man up, so it's tough. That's why sports like football or, sports that are less individualized. I guess, I don't know. Fighting's different because it's not a team sport at all. So it's as individualistic as you can get. So everyone's always looking out for themselves, and everyone has their own schedule, and it's year round. It's tough to organize for sure. But in basketball, individual is very big in that sport. But it's so big that it eclipses the game and team atmosphere as much, to where guys like LeBron and KD and Steph Curry, they can make like actual, especially LeBron, managerial decisions and have say into who is going to be the coach, because these guys have $300 million endorsement deals, outside of the NBA. They could stop playing and they'll still make hundreds of millions of dollars. So the teams need them more than they need the basketball and the organization. That's really only for the top guys and the all-star type guys. But, take football, for instance. That's not really the case. Like, even the best of the best, even if Tom Brady was like, I'm not playing in... I don't know, Tom Brady wouldn't do this because he takes pay cuts all the time. But if he was like, I'm not playing until you do this, well, Patriots will be like, well, we got Bill Belichick, son. I don't know. Because it's weird. It's weird. But I don't even know where I'm going with that. Where was I going with that? I don't know. What even started that tangent? I don't know. Who cares? As far as the next fight, that was between Aljamain Sterling and Pedro Munoz. And Sterling, again, impressed me. And he's just showing that he's got better and better. And he was kind of like Angela Hill when he first started out, is where they're both very aggressive, very athletic, very explosive. But they hadn't pieced all the pieces of the puzzle together. They hadn't found, where it fit for them in their game and how to utilize it and mesh everything together and make it flow. But that's very clear that Sterling is starting to do that. His striking looked very good versus Munoz. Outstruck him, outpointed him in every round, in every facet, using his reach advantage, because he always had a reach advantage, but he has a wrestling background, and that's what he had kind of leaned on in the past. But versus Munoz, who's a very devastating power puncher, he used his reach, he used his distance, and outstruck him and lit him up. And I think he's next for 135, although, spoiler alert, Henry Cejudo ended up winning and called out Dominic Cruz. I'd like to see that fight, but if that fight doesn't happen, I think Aljamain Sterling definitely deserves that next shot. And if it's not him, then Peter Yan, who's later in the card. But we'll see how Munoz regroups. Hit some big ones before this, so if he could get another one, he'll be back right up in there in contention. To end out the prelims, we had Tatiana Suarez versus Nina Ansaroff, duking it out. And my cat's at the door. I'm gonna let her in here before she gets away, and I can't get her back. Come on. Inside. Good girl. Way to listen. She's been listening really good recently. It's like she knows what I'm saying. Anyways, as far as the fight between Tatiana Suarez and Nina Ansaroff, kind of just ended up going how everyone thought it would. Nina would try to keep the distance, try to stay away from takedowns, get off the ground, and Tatiana's going to take it to the ground. It's clear, at the start of each round that Tatiana Suarez, her stand-up game is shaky. She has shaky hands, but she does have a long reach, a long build. So if she can just hone that game, that side of her game a little more, she could definitely be a decent striker and actually have some power in her. Her body frame is just built for punching power, just power, period. Come to find out, and actually the guy I was sitting next to told me, I didn't really believe him, honestly, because this is the second time I sat by somebody random and they told me they knew one of the fighters on the card. But he said he was, quote-unquote, homegirls with Tatiana Suarez. And then he pointed me out where their family was sitting. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Why aren't you sitting with them? I don't know. But he was rooting for her like a fucking fangirl, like a fucking teenage girl at a fucking Justin Bieber concert. This fucking 6'5", tall, skinny black dude. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess you love her? I don't know. But supposedly, and he told me this during the fight, and he made it seem like that she texted him or something, or someone in her camp texted him. But I saw that there was a fucking tweet literally right after the fight saying that, and he had been on Twitter the entire time, so I'm assuming that's where he saw it from. But that Suarez actually hurt her neck in the first round, and I guess she actually had a neck injury coming in, but it was kind of stabilized. It was suppressed like a week coming into the fight. But then she re-aggravated there in the first round, and it made it difficult for her to take Nina down and keep her down. And if that's the case, then I can understand her performance. Her performance wasn't, although she did get the win, she did enough. It wasn't very impressive. It was kind of boring to watch. She kind of just, when she did take her down, she just kind of held her down. There wasn't too much ground and pound. She was very sloppy. I mean, she wasn't sloppy. It was just Nina did a decent job of defending. She had a decent defensive guard off her back, and did well to block what punches or elbows Suarez was trying to get off in the ground and pound. It just wasn't enough to decidedly get the first or second round there. And I think Nina definitely won the third. She was teeing off on Suarez there. And actually had her in a submission there late, almost. Well, closed the round in a submission, but it was close. It was deep, and it would have been finished if they had another minute to go, but they didn't. Suarez said she knew there was only 10 seconds left, but she miscalculated how long that 10 seconds would be. But that's it as far as the prelims. I am going to take a little break here. I'm going to stop right here, and then I'll do the main card. I'll talk about those fights here afterwards. I'll insert my ad here just because I'm actually doing this right now during my lunch break, and it's running a little over. I don't have too much I have stuff to do. I'm actually waiting on this other team to get done with the meeting in half an hour, but nonetheless, I should return to my quote-unquote day job where they actually pay me to do stuff. But it's all good. I'm not doing anything out of the lines, guys. Don't worry. You know me. I strictly adhere by all rules and all parameters ever set by any firm, company, or government organization. And so I'll be back in a little bit, motherfuckers. Love you. Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? I know I did before I started this. I had tons of questions that I didn't have the answers to. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show into all the apps people, like to listen to? How do I make money off of it? Really, and all these answers were simply answered by Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use, and I cannot specify that enough. It is so easy, especially for somebody like me. I'm lazy. Although I am tech savvy and I can do all this manually myself, I don't want to. So it's great. And now Anchor can match you up with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. So that means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now by reading this ad. And, as people listen to this ad and listen to my podcast, I will get more and more money to this, and, hopefully maybe be able to be self-efficient with this. So if you always wanted to start a podcast and make money, go to anchor.fm/start. It's anchor.fm/start to join me and a diverse community of podcasters already use anchors. And can't wait to hear your podcast. All right, and for the main event fights, to start it off, or the main card, sorry, not the main event. The main card fights to start us off, it was between Tai Tuivasa and Blagoy Ivanov. This is a good fight. I'm a fan of Tuivasa. Love him doing shoeies. He's a fan favorite. But he was outmatched and outclassed every step of the way by Blagoy Ivanov. Although Tuivasa had thrown some heavy punches, some heavy hooks, he was kind of a little more wild, and he was more wild and more inefficient with his strikes and his punches. And it seemed like every time he was throwing, Blagoy was just moving right out of the way and able to counter and just outpoint him. And I was going to say outdamage, but I'd say they both did about a decent amount of damage, but Tuivasa definitely got hit more, so I'd say he took more damage overall, but Tuivasa had the harder punches, I guess. But the consistency and the accuracy and efficiency of Ivanov just won him the fight. I thought in all 3 rounds, one of the judges scored at 29-28, the other 2 had it 30-27 in Blagoy's favor. He just looked great, especially heavyweight division. He doesn't move around too much, but he does a good job of cutting guys off and, as I said earlier, slipping just right out of the way of their punches and be able to counter. And he always seemed balanced and, I guess the best word is balance in his striking whenever he was attempting strikes or defending against Tuivasa strikes. He just looked like the better fighter, more polished, whereas Blagoy looked like he was a professional in there, like he does training. Tuivasa, I'm not saying he doesn't look like he's professionally training, he just seemed like he was more going out there for a brawl, or he seemed more of a fighter than a, I guess, I don't know what I'm trying to say. But it was a good fight to start off the card. I did put money on Tuivasa just because I'm a favorite of him. I thought Ivanov looked well in his last fight versus Ben Rothwell, but I thought Rothwell won that fight, so I didn't give Ivanov much credit. After this fight, I definitely do. He's a very good technical striker, technical puncher. And we'll see who he fights next. I don't remember off the top of my head what his ranking was. I want to say 10 or 15. I'll check right quick. But he definitely deserves at least another top 10 fight again. I don't think Tuivasa was top 10, but Blagoy was 13, Tuivasa was 11. So I mean, let's have him fight a top 10 guy. Alexei Olenek maybe. Shamil Abradakimov. So we'll see. We'll see how Tuivasa responds after this loss, after consecutive losses to JDS and then Blagoy. The next fight was also a good fight between Jimmy Rivera and Peter Yan from Russia. Jan's a fucking beast. He's only been in the UFC for, I think, about a year now, maybe a little more. Excuse me. But he's been killing it. He takes out another top contender in Jimmy Rivera. I believe he's undefeated in the UFC. If I remember from a previous show, undefeated in the UFC. He's beat Jimmy Rivera now, John Dodson. So he's beat 2 legit guys, and he said he wants the winner of the Cejudo Moraes fight. Although I think he's definitely a top contender and could definitely put on a performance and, against anybody in that division, I think there's guys above him that deserve it first, particularly Aljamain Sterling, we were talking about earlier. I'd love to see Dominic Cruz fight, even though he hasn't fought in about 2 years. Who else is above him that's winning streak? Really no one else. Corey Sandhagen, but he's about to fight. Or no, he was about to fight, but I think he got hurt, so he's out. I guess everyone else above him is lost pretty much, so there's really no one else there to challenge except for Sterling and Peter Yan. So it's a good call out. He'll probably get one fight before that, see if he can beat another top guy and go from there. This guy's definitely a stud. And now Rivera, is he on a losing streak? He's on a 2-fight winning losing streak. Of course, Moraes knocked him out the head kick. He then beat John Dodson, and then Aljamain Sterling beat him, and then Peter Yan here. So Jimmy Rivera he's 22-4. He's pretty much beat everybody, and he's a solid fighter. He just lost against a couple of the top guys, like the top 3, top 5 guys. So he'll have to recollect himself after 2 losses by decision, and try to bounce back and make his climb back up towards the top. Talking about a climb up towards the top, fucking Donald Cowboy Cerrone, man. I fucking love this dude. Fucking love Tony Ferguson too. The crowd in Chicago was heavy Cowboy favorites. There was definitely Ferguson fans there as well, legit MMA fans that know that Ferguson's a beast as well. If not a bigger beast, which I think he proved in this fight. But it was clear Cowboy is the most popular guy on this card, and the crowd was just going insane. People screaming, "Cowboy, Cowboy!" As far as the fight itself, it was a great fight in that first round. I think I'd give it to Cerrone. He landed more, did more damage. Ferguson likes to have his hands down. He's very unorthodox in his striking. It seems like he's willing to get hit almost in the beginning, let the guy wear himself out, and then he turns it back up afterwards. And that's what he did come the second round. He's more aggressive, where Cerrone, looked like, he started to punch himself out. And also Ferguson was landing a nasty jab, just hitting that jab, as Cerrone was coming in and starting to swell up Cerrone's face. Towards the end of the second round, his eye was really fucking swollen. You could see the damage. You could see the damage early in the second and halfway through the first. I was pretty close, but I wasn't far away, but I could see the redness on Cowboy's eye early on. And of course, if you've seen the fights after that I guess during the second round ending, Cowboy and Tony had an exchange, and the bell, went off. The end of the round sound went off, the fucking air horn. And then Tony landed a punch that was after the bell. It was kind of late afterwards, but he was with a combination of punches, but it was late. I don't know if he should have been penalized a point or not. He wasn't. But come to know, it really didn't matter. And then after the bell, Cerrone goes to his corner, and they showed it on the big screen live, and he fucking blew his nose. And as he was doing it, I was like, no, don't do that. I know that's not good. They always tell you not to do that. And as soon as he did, his eye was already pretty swollen. It was starting to swell shut, but he could still see it. But instantly after he blew his nose, his eye swelled closed. Cowboy was fucking with it. He was trying to push the air back, push the swollenness back on his face, so his eye would open up. It started bleeding through that, and then his eye started bleeding, and then there was blood everywhere. And I think it was a good stoppage. The fucking crowd was booing like shit just because they wanted to see a third round selfishly. There's no way as an organization or any commissioner or ref or doctor or corner should let a guy fight in that condition. Yeah, Cerrone would have fought. He would have gone in there and fucking fought. Hell yeah. That he would have got his fucking ass kicked. Although I did say Cerrone, I think he won that first round. I think some judges may have scored it towards Tony that first round. I wouldn't put it past him. As I said, he still landed in the first. It just didn't look as impressive because Cowboy is pushing forward, and he was landing the heavier shots, landed a couple head kicks, and he took him down. So that's why I give it to Cerrone. But Ferguson looked great, and he's not even unorthodox. People say that, but like he's really not. He kind of just like looks like he looks like he's in a movie. He looks like he's in the Matrix, and everyone's moving fast speed, but he's moving like slow, but it's at their speed. And I don't know. It doesn't make sense. It looks like he's moving slow. It's very deceptive, but he's like faster than you are. And he kind of just goes with the flow. He flows with the go. And just looked very good. Man, give this guy a title shot. I know he said he wouldn't mind running back for Cerrone, but that man deserves a title shot. He should have had a title shot. He should have had the fight with Holloway. He turned it down, though. Poirier got it. Poirier wins. Now Poirier's fighting Khabib for the title. So now Khabib and Poirier are fighting in August, if I remember correctly, in Abu Dhabi, UFC 242. And I think Ferguson should wait for the winner. Either that or him and Cowboy run it back right on that same Abu Dhabi card. Either that or they do it right before, because those guys could fight. Those guys could fight 2 months from now. They did it in 3 weeks, so why not have them fight after a couple months? Now, Ferguson's team might not want to do that, but if it makes sense, people would want to see it again. They'd pay to see it again. They'd pay to see that pay-per-view. That would be a huge pay-per-view, especially Khabib headlining, and then rematch those two guys. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe have it headline an ESPN card. Have ESPN blow up. I don't know. There's a lot of options, but I don't think, unless Conor comes back, Ferguson shouldn't take any other fight, really, but a title. Or, I don't know. Or possibly a rematch with Cerrone, but before the title shot, but before the title fight with Khabib and Dustin. He might just want to wait for that, but we'll see. Come the co-main event between Valentina Shevchenko and Jessica Ai. I had this bet in my parlay. I actually had a 4-way parlay, which I didn't even touch on. It was Valentina Shevchenko, had Peter Yan, Tatiana Suarez, and Yan Chionan, who actually is going to be fighting Jessica Andrade for the title, it looks like, on a UFC fight night. What was the date on that? Oh, it's right here. It's literally right here on the side of the computer. I saw it earlier. I didn't see it on the side until now. August 31 in China. Oh, wow. Close to UFC is close to finalizing a strawweight title fight between Jessica Andrade and Wei Li. Oh, no. Wrong person. It's a different person. Wow, is that racist? So not the girl that fought on this card, but Wei Li Zhang, who is legit and deserves a title shot, will be fighting Jessica Andrade August 31st in mainland China, on UFC Fight Night. So that's pretty cool. Headlining probably a card that'll probably be on ESPN, I'm guessing. If not, it'll be on ESPN Plus. Title fight for the flyweight women division, and in China with possibly the first Chinese champion in the UFC. We'll see. But back to this fight, back to this card, Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Ai. As I said, I had Valentina in my parlay, and it paid off. First round, not. I mean, the first round was definitely Valentina. She didn't get hit at all. They did stand and kind of trade a little bit, but Valentina was landing. She was landing some nice body kicks, nice body roundhouse kicks to Jessica consistently, and it was getting through. And then she also clinched with her and then got a takedown and kind of held her there for a majority of the round, 2 or 3 minutes, I'd say. And then came out right in the second round. I can't remember if she landed another body kick, but she might have. But she said in her several post-fight interviews that she noticed that, the body kick was working. It was getting through. And then she also noticed that I was starting to defend it. Like, she was starting to expect it towards the body. So then she threw that one. She threw a fucking nasty head kick right to her fucking head and shit on head and put her out instantly. And then as the switch went off, so did her body, so did her coordination, her balance, and essentially fell like a tree and knocked the back of her head on the canvas. And it was pretty. It was a fucking exciting ass knockout, but it was fucking brutal seeing her hit the back. That always gets me worse than the actual kick. I don't know why. That fucks me up. I guess it's because there's really nothing we can do about stopping them from hitting the back of their head. Because, I mean, you can defend and get better so you don't get kicked in the face first. So, I mean, you could do something about that. But once it hits you and you're unconscious and you're just out, I don't know, I wish we could, somehow just stop their momentum and lay them down on a pillow. But that's obviously not how this works. This is a fight game. I don't know why, but just that gets me worse is just when they hit the back of their head on the canvas. And Jessica was out for a while. If it wasn't at least a minute, it was several minutes. And for a good while, pretty much everybody in the arena was standing up, just make it is she okay? Is she dead? We knew she wasn't dead. You could see her legs moving. And I think they kept her on the ground for a little while. Because she was knocked the fuck out, and she ended up regaining consciousness. They got her to she stood up for a second. You could tell instantly she was stumbling. She was off balance. And I think I saw her murmur the words on the big screen, what? I don't remember that. I didn't get knocked out. Something like that. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but who knows. But it was a great performance by Valentina, man. She's a fucking beast, and I don't know if anyone's going to take that. I think that belt is hers for as long as she wants it. But she has a very good mindset, and she's a straight-up killer, man. She was saying, now that she's defended the title, people... Well, she didn't say this part, saying, some... and myself included, people think, there's nobody in this division that can beat her. And right now I'm not seeing anybody that's very compelling at 125 that could beat her. Can make that 125 limit and can beat her. I think Amanda Nunes can beat her, and Holly Holm can beat her, even though she beat Holly Holm. But I don't think either one of them can make 125. So because of that, I think Shevchenko might hold this belt for a while. And she said, just because I'm the champion now doesn't mean I get to relax. It means I have to work twice as hard because now everyone's coming for her belt. But she said this is her belt. And so, man, she's a straight killer. So she beat Jessica. Kayla Chuvigan, I'm going to guess, would be next in line to fight her. She beat Joanne Calderwood earlier on this card, and she's number 2 and be number 6. Jessica was 1, so that would have her next. Liz Carmouche is at 3. I don't know who she fought last, or if she won, or is she even fighting. She fought Pudilova. Can't remember that, but that was nothing. Maya. She hasn't really fought any top contenders. I don't see her beating Shevchenko either. Ioannis 4, I think Shevchenko beats her all day. Roxanne Modafferi potentially dark horse of the division. I thought JoJo Calderwood was too. I liked her. But Roxanne's game is wrestling, but I think Valentina's probably a better wrestler and stronger than her. Alexis Davis, no. Jennifer Maya, no. Maybe Macy Barber in like 5 to 10 years. She's only 20. Maybe Paige Van Zandt when she heals up and rattles off, 3 to 5 fight winning streak, maybe. But I think that's Shevchenko's for that belt for the time being. People are going to have to come take it from her. That's going to be her division for a while, I believe. Speaking of king of the division, or should I say divisions, Henry the Messenger Cejudo versus Marlon Moraes in the main event. It was a great fucking fight. Both of them went at it back and forth in the first. Moraes was landing some fucking powerful leg kicks. You could hear him all the way up in the fucking nosebleeds, I think. And you would see Cejudo's, leg given with it and, being flung all the way up in the air. Supposedly, I guess he fractured his ankle or had a sprain in his ankle. No, he had a sprain in his ankle. That was pretty bad, but he fought through that. He was allowed to tape his ankles, which the state of Illinois allows you to do. A lot of states don't allow you to do that, so he's able to do that, power through it, and he looked great. And he made a conscious effort between rounds 1 and 2 to up the tempo. 1, it seemed like he kind of felt him out. He was giving Moraes his space. He was trying to play his game, fight at distance and be the more technical striker. And he noticed he was having his moments. He took him down a couple of times, but Moraes got right back up. He was very good grappling defense and able to get to his feet quickly, back to his feet quickly. But come that second round, Cejudo just started charging him. It looked like he was charging him like he knew he had him hurt. Even though I didn't think he had him hurt. He had him hurt definitely like halfway through the second. You started to see Moraes start to crumble, give in. But it wasn't until Cejudo put on that pressure. And he said in one of the post-fight interviews, he's done probably 100 now, that, he realized, okay, he needs to make this a fight. This isn't a wrestling match. This isn't a boxing or kickboxing match. He needs to make it a fight and just take it to him. And I don't know if you heard that fart or not, but I farted. Congrats to me. And that's what he did, man. He went out there like Cerrone went out there in the first versus Ferguson, and it was just 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, and just nonstop pressure. He didn't let Moraes get his distance and, set up his powerful leg kicks or any of his kicks to his body or his crazy head kicks that he knocked guys out in the past, like Aljo and fucking Jimmy Rivera, who were on this card. Cejudo just took it to him, and he took it to him in the second round. Definitely won that round, in my opinion. I don't know who I'd give the first round to. I'd probably lean towards Moraes just because it looked like he was doing more damage with the leg kicks, and they definitely seemed like they were damaging and effective. But I could see one judge giving it to Cejudo. Who knows? Come the third round, Cejudo almost finished Moraes at the second. He definitely had him stumbling there a couple times. And then come the third round, he did the same exact thing, and he ended up getting the finish at 4:51 into the third round with less than 10 seconds left. I guess wasn't surprised they stopped it, but I was surprised Moraes, I guess, kept not defending himself intelligently. I thought maybe he'd try to kick off or make one last scramble or dish effort knowing there's only 10 seconds left. But no, he earned the clapper the 10 seconds and couldn't really do too much, and Henry put him away, got the win, and becomes the champ and Olympic champ. So he said he's a triple C, triple champ. Congrats to him. First guy ever to win an Olympic gold medal and then a UFC belt. He did that when he defeated Demetrius Johnson. And then, who is the greatest of all time, if if not the greatest, one of the greatest. Him, Anderson Silva, GSP. It's those three guys as far as UFC goats. And then John Jones, of course, but his story's still being written. And now, can you say Cejudo? I mean, he hasn't defended any of his... Well, he defended his flyweight belt versus TJ Dillashaw. TJ Dillashaw came down, who they said, and I said he might be the greatest 135-pounder of all time in the UFC. But now that, he got suspended for EPO, he's out for 2 years, his legacy's definitely tarnished, but that doesn't take away his accomplishments inside the ring. But because of that, now I put Dominic Cruz right back up at there, which I thought was always he made the 135-pound division, him and Uriah Faber and their beefs back and forth. But the UFC was really for Dominic Cruz. Faber never won the belt because Cruz was the champ for so long. He's the longest holding championship, or champion at 135. And I'd love to see him, when he gets healthy, fight Cejudo. That'd be a great fight, especially for Cejudo. Just build this guy even more. If he could beat Dominic Cruz, fuck, dude. What can he not do? But that's a whole nother thing. So, man, you gotta start talking Cejudo now as one of the greatest. I mean, he was an Olympic champ, first one ever to be an Olympic champ in wrestling, and a UFC belt. He did that beating the best ever at 125 and Demetrius Johnson. TJ Dillashaw, who's one of the best ever, period, and top 3 best ever at 135, comes down to 125, knocks him out in a minute, and then now he goes up to 135, gets a second belt simultaneously versus Marlon Moraes, or definitely the number 1 contender. He starts everybody else below him. So I mean, Cejudo's legit, and if there was any doubts before, he fucking proved it tonight, man. And who knows what's next? The sky's the limit. And I hope his stardom just keeps increasing. I hope mainstream people start to notice him. He is a Mexican-American. I think he could be a star. He is in the lighter weight division, so it seems for some reason or another, those guys don't seem to always pop off. But, he's the king of cringe, and he's always on social media posting and doing his cheesy selling points, but I'm digging it. I think it's funny, and I can tell he believes it, and he believes in himself, and it fucking shows in the octagon. And it's the best proving ground in all sports. If you got a problem with somebody, you've got beef, you sell in the ring for 15 to 25 minutes. If you think you're the best, okay, fight the best, and if you win, hey, you're the best, you beat them all. And that's just how it is. That's life, man. And it was a great night of fights. I had a great time besides my little hiccups personally, as far as my car breaking down on the way back, having to pay for it, getting towed, another 2 hours after that. And then fucking not be able to use my fucking card or buy anything at the fights or right after. Man, I was so hungry afterwards too, because I thought it was just a problem with the fucking machines at the United Center, because it was all MasterCard based machines. So I thought it was fucking up with Visa. That's what the guys told me at the beer stand. And I believed them because I was fucking stoned. I didn't know what I was doing. I was so high right before I took a fucking picture with Corey Anderson. They gave us, before we walked on the line, they gave us a little thing to stick on our back of the phones that, attaches to your phone, and you could put like your credit cards and ID and things like that in it. And I was so stoned. I didn't even realize what it was. I was so stoned. So I gave my phone with the camera ready to the person they had designated there to take a picture with your phone. I gave that to the lady and was like, "Here you go." And she's like, what? And I'm like, what? And I'm like, oh. They gave her my phone. It was like, wow. I'm so stoned, and I had to go through that awkward moment. But whatever. And right after the picture, I didn't know what I was doing. I walked up right to this next thing that was right next to it, and it was the face off with the fighter on the card, and I did that with Cerrone. If you follow me on Instagram, one of that picture's up there, and it's just, I don't even know how it got taken, but yeah. It was still a great time. I was fucking starving afterwards. I was trying to order Papa John's fucking 40 times. I ordered a huge ass pizza and wings and a brownie, but it all ended up getting declined. I ended up calling Wells Fargo finally because I'm like, this bullshit, I'm hungry. They told me my car was restricted because there's suspicious activity because I had left the state, I guess. I don't know. I guess if you go anywhere, I gotta get it approved by my bank now, I guess. This shit better not fuck up when I leave next time. That's all I'm saying. I'm gonna be out of the country, motherfuckers. But it was a fun time. And yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a great time. Chicago's cool. I'm not much of a city person, and I think being in big cities just make me realize I don't want to be in a city, even though it's cool being able to walk around and go to the local bars and restaurants, and there's great food and stuff everywhere. I went to this great, finally after I got my card fixed the next morning, I went to this great Mexican restaurant for breakfast, and it was fucking delicious. They had great coffee. They had I ended up getting steak and eggs with mole sauce on top of the eggs and rice and beans, the whole nine. And this I asked for they were like, oh, you need anything else? I asked for hot sauce. Usually they just give you a bottle, wherever you go. They gave in a little cup like this handmade hot sauce, and it was hot as fuck, but I fucking loved it. Love spicy stuff, and it was such a good meal. It was worth the 12 to 15 hour, it was longer. Wasn't that? Yeah, it was about. When was the last time I ate that day? It was like 12. So I literally ate around 12. It was more like 11 to 12, and then didn't eat for the rest of the day till that next morning. So it was another 12, 9. Bruh, I went like 20 hours without eating. Or a beer while watching people beat the shit out of each other. Crazy. Don't recommend it, but it was still fun. I loved it, and I don't know. I like seeing the fights live, but more and more I'm like, I'd rather watch them at home. I don't have to drive. I don't have to pay for a hotel. I don't have to pay for parking. I don't have to risk. I don't have to risk my car breaking down. Last time I went to a UFC event in Chicago, at least, my fucking cat died. It seemed like something always goes wrong. When I went to Milwaukee, nothing went wrong. But, I don't know. If you watch them at home, you could pause them, you could rewind them, you can pause it, go take a shit, you can make some food on the comfort of your couch. You don't have to pay for overcharged beer and food. Obviously, the being there live is just better as far as the energy goes. You get more into it. When Valentina knocked out Jessica, I couldn't help myself just fucking jump out of my seat and just go, oh my god, what the fuck? And I didn't sit down until, I don't know if I sat down the rest of the night. Great time. I don't know. It's gonna have to take. It's not a lot, but it's gonna be a while till I go out of my way to my next UFC event. Like, they have one in Minneapolis. If I didn't go to this one, and then another one last year, and then another one in Milwaukee, I've been to 4 now. I would go to the one in Minneapolis. If I didn't go to those 3, I'd go to the one in Minneapolis. But because it's so far away and it's like next month, it's not worth it, especially with some other upcoming trips I have planned and vacation time and all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm just talking selfishly about myself. As far as news, the only news I had was that a fight announcement between Jessica Andrade and Weili Zhang. There's a note here on the side of the SportsCenter site. Demetrius Johnson and Eddie Alvarez will both be back in action for one championship on August 2nd. In Manila, the promotion announced Monday. Demetrius Johnson will face Tatsumitsu Wada in the semifinals of the one flyweight Grand Prix. Alvarez takes on former one lightweight champion Edward Yang. Cerrone did not break his face, so that's cool. 3 judges for Cejudo versus Moraes had it 19 heading into the third round, so they all probably gave Moraes the first round and Cejudo the second, which is what I would have done. And Cowboy wants Ferguson again. And that's really it. Chael Sonnen was talking bullshit about how he got a lucrative offer from WWE. I don't really care too much about that. Oh, yeah, Cejudo, he called out pretty much everybody. He called out Dominic Cruz first. He called out Faber, I think, since Faber's back and he's going to fight Ricky Simon in Sacramento. I think it's a one-time thing for Faber because they had his gyms in Sacramento and, why not? He's been competing in jiu-jitsu tournaments and events. He hasn't fought in a while, so maybe he's healed up and has a few new tools. So we'll see. But he's fighting a beast in Ricky Simon. I'd have him as the betting underdog. And then, Cejudo also called out Frankie Edgar if Frankie Edgar beats Max Holloway at 145. Which is funny. He calls out, or he said he would fight Edgar at 145 and eventually get 3 belts. Because there's no way you're fighting Holloway. You're not winning that fight. Holloway's he's so much bigger than you. Skilled. But I could see him fighting Edgar and possibly winning. That'd be a good fight. I don't see Edgar beating Holloway, but, if it happens, yeah. Last thing, Chris Cyborg said that Dana White is trying to damage my brand, which is just crazy. You're a fighter. What brand are you talking about? Like, you either fight or you don't. Your brand was damaged because you were supposedly the baddest female player in Earth. And you went out there and just decided to trade with Amanda Nunes, who proved to us that she is actually the baddest woman on Earth. And you got knocked out in 40 seconds. That was the most damaging thing to your quote-unquote brand. And yes, she beat the fuck out of me any day of the week, anytime she wanted. And I'd just have to let her. But if you want to build your brand back up, sign up to fight and beat the fuck out of people. It's just, there's not many 145ers, so it's hard to get you fights. Girls don't want to fight her because they're not as good as her, and they get their shit knocked out. Their fucking brain rattled around if they fight her. She will be fighting Felicia Spencer coming up, who beat Megan Anderson, because Megan Anderson has no ground game whatsoever, even though she has the frame for being a great jiu-jitsu player, at least off the bottom, being able to use her legs. But, she's facing a very supreme grappler and wrestler that has great top pressure, Felicia Spencer. But Megan Anderson doesn't know how to use her legs or hips or anything like that. And I barely do either. I'm a fucking white belt for 2 weeks. And I haven't gone a couple days because I can't even fucking drive there anymore. So I'm nobody. But just from the basic things I've learned in 2 weeks, Megan didn't do that. I know it's a different thing when someone's punching you and actually hitting you. But yeah. See what Cyborg does. She said she'll test the free agent market after this fight. I don't know where else she goes. She could go and fight in one championship. I think that's what she should do. If I was her. I don't know who else there is to fight. So I think they'd welcome it. They'd be the only ones willing to pay her more than what the UFC probably pays her. Bellator would probably pay her. But again, it's tough to get her fights. But I think one championship probably could get her fights all day. They got some fucking real talent out there that is just not discovered because, they're fighting overseas. They're fighting over in Asia. But that's all I got for today. Thanks for being with me. These are some great fights as far as next episode MMA goes. I'm not sure. I got a lot of things coming up as far as personal life. As I said, I have to get my car fixed. I've been going to jiu-jitsu again, so I said I will be cutting back on these episodes. Aim to have regular Kyle High episode here in the next couple days. We'll see how that goes. I did have some preliminary talks with a college professor, possibly meet up and, get acquainted and maybe do an episode in the future. But now I have no car to even meet this guy, so I don't want to be, I don't know. There's public transportation, things like that, but I got some things to figure out before I can, and then I'm not even a month, in about 3 weeks, I'm going to fucking Miami and then fucking Bahamas for a cruise for my best friend who's getting married, his bachelor party. So I got all that. I got to get this car fixed before then, start going to jiu-jitsu again. But as far as these episodes, I'll have a Kyle High Club out hopefully by end of the week. I'm not too busy. And then as far as next pay-per-view card is until July 6th. So I won't do any preview fights for preview from beginning to end of the next 2 UFC cards. There is no UFC card whatsoever this next week, and so I'll have nothing out for the rest of this week. But the week after that, you got Honoto Moicano versus the Korean Zombie, UFC Fight Night, June 22nd. And then that next week, you have Francis Ngannou versus Dos Santos. And then after that, the weekend after, UFC 239, John Jones versus Thiago Santos. So what I might do is have a recap episode of the Moicano and Korean Zombie event, and then also preview the main event and the other big fights from the Ngannou and Dos Santos card, and then have a preview and recap of 239 and go from there. So yeah, although this is what I want to do with my life, which is, I guess, is just talking to nobody and to an empty abyss. I guess I could just do this in the fucking Grand Canyon. I don't have to have a house or anything like that. But although this is what I do want to do, it is not paying the bills right now. And although I like doing it, I enjoy doing it, priorities, motherfucker, Although this is like my special side project, as I said, it's not paying the bills, and it's also, although I think it is helping me mentally as far as staying off social media and complaining or finding reasons to complain about shit that really doesn't matter, and it's just trivial things or even unimportant things, but it's just not worth my time. But that's definitely helping that aspect. But I could be working out instead. I could be going to jiu-jitsu class. I could hit the punching bag. And that will do 100 times more for me, at least personally. So although I do enjoy this, yeah, I'm just going to shut the fuck up now. And peace. Love you. Bye.